Alright, here we go. 3 true lockdown horror stories. Part 4. For those of you who haven't seen my previous videos. Back in May last year, I asked my subscribers to send me their lockdown horror stories. Now, as many of you know, I love reading creepypastas, but I was finding it difficult to find any good ones online. So I thought, why not try and make my own? Within hours of posting that video, I received hundreds of emails from people around the world telling me their terrifying tales of things that it happened to them during lockdown. And even though some of these stories may sound like they'd be better suited for a comedy channel, trust me, there were just as many genuinely creepy and frightening stories sent in as well. And since then, I've done 3 videos based on these stories, with the 4th being this one. For those of you watching who haven't seen the others, I'll leave links to those videos at the end of this one. But without further ado, let's jump straight into the first story. I went out for food shopping in the early days of lockdown. It was the first time I'd been out. No one was on the streets, and all the shops were closed. The only shop open was a small corner shop near my house. When I got to the shop, I noticed that the windows had been covered over with wooden boards, presumably to stop people smashing them and taking stuff. There was a small gap in the middle of the boards where the bell above the door was. I pushed it open and went inside. The guy serving me looked Asian. I think he was Indian. He was wearing a face mask, and behind him on the wall was a big sign saying, "No loitering, keep moving." As I'm going through the shop, I saw 2 figures standing in the shadows by the fridges. They were quite tall and thin, almost like skeletons. I thought, wow, must be pretty scary if they're dressing up like that to scare people away. I continued to pick out the things I wanted until I got to the sweets. One of the figures came out from behind the fridge, and I realized that they were undressed up at all. They were emaciated and their skin was gray. I instantly panicked and ran to the till to get away. I could feel the guy's eyes burning into my neck as I walked past him. I paid for my things and got out of the store as fast as I could. As I walked down the street, I could still feel someone staring at me, and I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see them running after me. I never went back to that store again. Now, this next story does take place in a school. So I was home alone at my apartment when I started hearing noises outside my window. At first, I thought nothing of it, as there is a road directly outside my window. However, the noises got progressively worse. They sounded like screams, but not the kind of screams you would hear from someone being murdered. Instead, they were the kind of screams you would hear from a mutated creature from hell, who were also human-like, but not human. I couldn't bring myself to look outside the window. I was paralyzed with fear. Then I started hearing footsteps, not just any footsteps, but slow and dragging footsteps. My mind conjured up images of whatever was outside trying to claw its way into my apartment. I started barricading the door with anything I could find. When it was clear that the thing outside wasn't getting in, it stopped, and I heard it move away slowly. I decided to go to bed, but every time I tried to close my eyes, I could see the creature outside my window. I slept on the floor, curled up in the fetal position instead. In the morning after, of course, I didn't sleep at all, I went to my window to look outside. There was nothing there. There are no trees or buildings outside my window, just a busy city street. To this day, I don't know what that noise was. 8. It might have been a mutant creature, or maybe just a raccoon, but I preferred to think it was a raccoon. And finally, it's time for the 3rd and final story. When the pandemic hit and the country went into lockdown, I decided to walk along the beach near my house to clear my head and escape the news. This beach is very long, and usually there are people and dogs walking up and down it. On this particular day, however, I was the only person there. I started my walk. I noticed something strange on the sand. It was a big circle, like the imprint left by something that had landed there. I found it odd, but I put it down to just another weird thing brought on by the pandemic. I continued walking along the beach, enjoying the freedom of the empty space. After about an hour, I turned around to go home. But when I did, I realized that there were now 2 circles on the beach. One where I had started my walk, and the other where I was standing. I became alarmed and tried to think of a logical explanation. Maybe a plane had landed, but planes don't land on beaches and leave circular marks. It's maybe a giant bird, but surely a giant bird would have been reported. By now I was panicking, and I needed to get home. I started running towards the other circle, hoping to get out of there as fast as I could. When I got closer, I realized that the marks were perfectly round and smooth. like a dome had been placed on the beach and removed. And the scariest part was that the area between the circles was completely flat. Nothing had been disturbed. The wind was strong that day, and I could feel it pushing me towards the first circle. I didn't dare turn around, and I resisted the urge to run. I kept walking towards the first circle at a steady pace. As I approached, I could feel my breathing becoming heavier. I felt something brush against my leg, and I screamed. I stopped dead in my tracks and slowly turned around. There was nothing there. I looked back towards the second circle, which was now much closer. I could see the shape clearly, and it looked like a huge UFO. I picked up my pace and broke into a light jog. I knew I had to get out of there. I looked back one last time, and I could have sworn I saw a figure standing at the edge of the craft. It wasn't looking at me, but I could see its outline against the bright light coming from the inside. I picked up my pace and ran towards the safety of my home. As I reached my front door, I turned to look back, but I couldn't see anything except a bright white light in the distance. I unlocked the door and slammed it shut behind me. And whether or not you believe this story, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, I'd appreciate it if you took a moment to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I don't want to force it, but I'd love to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And if you are subscribed, then thank you so much for your support. It means more to me than you'll ever know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next time.